The depression stuff comes in and you just feel like, oh, I feel like shit. I don't feel like I can do anything and nobody should have to deal with me. So I'm not going to contact anyone.
I don't know that feeling at all. I have a tagline, but it's kind of unhinged.
I like unhinged.
All right, here we go. Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Pickles and Vodka, the mental health podcast that it'll take you 7 years to recover from. I'm Christina.
And I'm Lauren.
Lauren.
Yes.
Where are you at today?
Oh, why do I always forget I have to answer this question? Probably because I was watching most of the documentary like an hour ago.
Yeah, we watched a documentary for today's episode. Mm-hmm. I don't even know how I stumbled upon it, but it stood out to me in a way that not every piece of eating disorder media from that time does.
Yeah. I noticed it was from 2003, and I was kind of impressed at that point, because I was like, I would have expected worse from 2003.
Yeah, for the time, I think it was really good. Even now, like, we'll get into it, but it kind of left me gut punched.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had like 2 cups of coffee already, and I am like jittery as fuck.
I'm just on my regular. When I go to work, then I drink regular hot coffee. But for some reason, when I'm home, I've started doing cold brew instead. And I've gotten into that habit. And as we know, that's usually higher caffeine. So yeah, sometimes I feel it when I'm home. Yeah.
I want to start brewing cold brew again. Coffee is just like you have to get whole bean coffee and then grind it a special way. And
yeah, I'd probably just kind of do a makeshift grind and like hope it's close. But I have my brother a long time ago got me a French press, so I can use that.
Ooh la la.
Yes. Oh yeah, I'm stalling. Where am I at?
Okay, where are you at? But also, I want to hear about your motorcycle ride.
Oh, it didn't happen.
No.
And I don't know.
Why not?
I don't know. Maybe that kind of feeds into things. Because, you know, like, I've been feeling a lot of, like, depression bullshit coming back. And I know that the boyfriend deals with that too. And I don't know if, like, me is rubbing off. Because it just kind of seems like we're not communicative very well. Especially, I don't know, during the week. It just seems like there's a lot of, I mean, I know on my end, I don't know on his end because I know that just like sometimes I'll expect to hear from him and I just won't. But I know like on my end, I'm dropping the ball there because, you know, things like the depression stuff comes in and you just feel like, oh, I feel like shit. I don't feel like I can do anything and nobody should have to deal with me. So I'm not going to contact anyone.
I don't know that feeling at all.
Ah, yeah, I know.
Is he the same way? Do you think?
I don't know. Yeah, I think he can kind of just sort of like brush things off. I don't know if he feels the same way, like, I can't burden anybody with this. I think he just kind of feels like, there's no point.
Yeah. I'm sorry, that sucks.
Mm-hmm. So, like, I was actually, you know, expecting, I mean, we hadn't set concrete plans, but we'd said this would be a good day to do this. And then, you know, and I'm already kind of feeling like shit, and I get just a message from him in the middle of the afternoon that just says, like, wow, I've been a total waste today and done nothing, you know, and I respond something back, like, yeah, you know, kind of in the same boat, and that's it. Don't get another response, and, you know, because of how I'm feeling, then I'm just like, well, I guess it just doesn't want to talk to me, all right.
Oh my god.
So I think both of us are kind of in the same boat and are dealing with it the same way, and it's just making it kind of a lonely couple weeks.
Yeah. Especially, like, if you feel like you can't talk to your partner about it, that's a very lonely place to be.
Yeah, and for me, that gets me more frustrated. You know, I've, like, talked about this in therapy a lot and stuff, because like, if something like that happens, I feel like we've had these conversations before, so we know we're capable of it. We know we're willing to talk about these things, but at least for me, I don't call somebody up just for, like, the express purpose of, like, hi, can I tell you about everything that's going mentally wrong with me? Can that be the conversation we have right now? Let's get right into it. you know, I have to be kind of like comfortable and ease in and be like, so, you know, this is kind of how things have been lately. And
I mean, I think that's what everyone does. Like,
right. But the thing is we don't have that because I can't go to his place and he can't stay too long at mine because he has to go back home to his little murderer.
It all comes back to the dog stuff.
Mm-hmm. And that's why, you know, like thinking about this stuff and trying to think constructively, like, what can we maybe do to, you know, like make it better? And then I realize it's the dog, and then I just get pissed off all over again.
Well, yeah. And it's not like you weren't depressed before that happened, but I feel like that's also the cause of this current, like, depression spiral.
Well, yeah, because I mean, especially now, like, I knew the 1-year anniversary wasn't going to be easy, and, you know, maybe it hit harder than I expected. I didn't know what to expect, but I think, yeah, that kind of set things off.
Yeah.
And also just, you know, like that and just like our situation, you know, it's kind of like after 1 full year, it's just like the futility of it all. It's like, gosh, so it's just all beaten down.
Yeah, at some point, something's got to give.
Mm-hmm.
This is just no way to live life.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. There truly is nothing really to say, just I understand, and you can always vent on here.
Yeah. I know I've had the conversation in therapy a couple of times too, where I've said, you know, like, as it goes on this long, then I got to think, I said, like, yeah, periodically I check in with myself, like, how long can I put up with this? And so far, my answer, especially I think, yeah, right now with the 1-year anniversary fresh and everything, my answer is usually like, yeah, but if I like set some ultimatum and he chooses wrong, I'm going to be, for the moment, in a much, much worse spot. And I don't think I can handle that right now. So I can't force myself to have that conversation yet.
Yeah, that's valid. It's such a shitty place to be.
Mm-hmm. So that's me. Where are you at?
Oh, where am I at? It's been a weird week. I'm also kind of downward spiraling for no clear reason.
Mm-hmm. Which also happens.
Right. Yeah, I haven't been great, but I'm going to get my back pay soon for my disability.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, my dad actually got it sent to his house on a card because, did I say on the podcast that he has to be my payee?
Yes.
Okay. So, yeah, he got the card sent to his house and the money's there, but they won't let him transfer it to his account so he can transfer it to my account. So, like, he has to jump through all these hoops. But allegedly, hopefully soon, I will get that.
Mm-hmm.
I would say this whole week I've been feeling kind of increasingly out of control.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I'm not surprised. It's like when I look at your situation, like, I'm not surprised that you've ended up here because I've seen you gradually getting worse. I mean, if you just look at your Peach feed, it's like evidence of a downward spiral over time.
Uh-huh.
And like, I've tried to do that with myself. Like, I try to go back and think, what set this off this time?
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Like, that is something that we kind of do. It's okay for me to feel this bad and to maybe not respond in the best ways, but I need a reason for it. And it's like, sometimes the reason is just your brain.
Yeah. And I don't want that to be the reason because
I know.
I mean, nothing is like 100% the reason. It's going to be a lot of things.
Right.
And part of it is our brains. But it feels, speaking of losing control, I accept the fact that it's just my head and that's how I'll be forever. Like, that's a complete lack of control.
Yeah, that's a good point too, that it's almost more comforting to be able to say like, well, I'm dealing with all this, of course. But if it's just like, I just came this way. Ugh.
Well, yeah. And I became this way. It's not just when bad things happen too. Like, even when good things happen, sometimes I get worse.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, what is wrong with me? Like, at this point, I feel like it's really getting in the way of my goals.
Well, I know, like, somehow, imagine this. Don't make it black and white. Things are not all good or all bad. But what I was specifically thinking of is, it's like, yeah, the disability came in and that, you know, objectively seems like a good thing. But I mean, with the stuff with your dad having to control it, I'm putting myself in that situation. And it's like, I know we talked about it and you understood why, but it still feels like someone saying, I'm not capable of handling money. Like, that sounds like infantilizing, and that sounds shitty feeling.
Yeah, and I have noticed, like, in the last week, I have been spending money a little more recklessly. Part of it is because, like, I know that I'll be okay now. Yeah. And it's like, oh, okay, I can finally spend money on these things that I've been wanting to. But, like, last night I ordered delivery, and it was, like, really expensive.
First, yes. I I feel like I do the same. It's like not very often, but every once in a while it's like, I'm just going to have something delivered, you know, a little treat. And then it's like, good God, it is expensive. Like, well, it's insane, but also it's not bad. I mean, I know I feel the same way, especially when I see how much and it's like, oh, I can't really be affording that. That was the wrong choice.
Yeah, it's not just that though. Like, I ordered it for bulimic reasons.
No.
Like, it wasn't a treat. It was the opposite. It almost felt like punishment. Mm-hmm. And I haven't done that in forever. And it's interesting that all that comes up this week in particular. Mm-hmm. I don't know. We're just broken.
Yeah.
Moral of the podcast, we're just broken. And sometimes we watch movies about people that are also broken. No, should we just get into it?
Sure. I was trying to remember because I said, like, as we started watching this, I've definitely seen it before, but I don't know that I saw the whole thing. I'm thinking that, you know, probably not long after it came out with my whole, like, obsession with Marya Hornbacher, as so many people did at the time, because, you know, like, I'm young and I idolize her. And then I think there was some, like, YouTube that was actually just kind of like a clip of all of her interviews. So I feel like I saw that part.
I hadn't even seen those. I'm kind of surprised by the fact that I hadn't heard of this before. So the movie is called Perfect Illusions, Eating Disorders in the Family. Mm-hmm. And it was made by PBS. And my first note says, do public entities still fund eating disorder docs? Because, like, can you imagine?
Well, I mean, I should save this. We'll get into this, I'm sure, way later in the conversation. But I have a kind of related thing that I looked up out of my own curiosity.
Okay, cool.
That's better than my first note, which was, did Lauren Hutton have a stroke?
Oh my God. Okay, so...
It's narrated by Lauren Hutton. Yeah.
And I didn't know who that was.
Yeah, she's an old actress.
I assumed she was, like, an older actress.
Or model, I think. I think she's more of a model.
Yeah. And then she says, you know, this was never my problem, but in this story, you're going to meet people who have eating disorders. And I was like, why are you doing this if you don't have any personal connection to it?
Yeah, I think that's it. Because I think it's like 60s and 70s. She was like a big time model. So she probably did witness a lot. So it does make sense.
Well, and if you go to the website for this movie, there's a whole page about her. And my question for why she did this was not answered. I'm just leaving with more questions. Uh-huh. She has done so much crazy shit. She was the very first supermodel. So, like, this is the first time a product is, like, associated exclusively with one model. She's worked with a bunch of, like, famous actors and directors. She had her own talk show.
Oh, yeah, she's one of the people I'm named after.
Really?
Yeah.
She's the vice president of the Guggenheim Museum Motorcycle Club.
Well, that was what I found out when I asked that question. I just asked, like, did Lauren Hutton have a stroke? And they said, like, no, a lot of people think that, but she did have a really serious motorcycle accident.
Oh, shit.
So that would explain why people see things, yeah, like her mouth's kind of drooping and she kind of slurs her words. So I think she looks pretty good, you know, in this documentary. But I know she, like, her voice was through the whole thing sometimes just kind of like, slurpy, slurpy.
Her passions are dog sledding and sailing wooden sailboats.
Jeez.
All right, that's all on Lauren Hutton.
She is an interesting lady.
Seriously. But yeah, this documentary follows 4 young women. Marya Hornbacher, obviously, author of Wasted. I swear I had no idea she was in this before I sent it to Lauren. Mm-hmm. And then there's Annie, who is the college student with bulimia in Seattle.
Nope.
No?
No, the one in Seattle is the Indian girl, Suni.
Yes, Suni is in Seattle.
I think Annie's also Minnesota. I think there's a lot of Minnesota, but they do, like, their fourth one is Anna Weston, who, well, at the time of the documentary was already deceased. And also, you know, her parents, like, started some foundation, hospital, everything, yeah, in her name. So that's what, I mean, it's pretty famous, especially for Minnesota people, area people going to treatment.
Again, I had no idea. Yeah, Suni is the 16-year-old with bulimia, and then Anna is the one who's deceased, but they, like, read her diary entries throughout the documentary, which I found really effective, obviously. One thing that kind of confused me was, like, two of the girls have names that are almost exactly the same, and they're both, like, white girls with blonde hair.
They do look similar.
Yeah, so Annie is the college student, and Anna is the one
who you're seeing her parents, talk about it.
Yeah. I'm really curious who you related to the most.
All of them at different points, but, like, let's start out with the first one. Like, I don't know that I related to Annie the most necessarily, but I definitely related to her family the most.
Yes.
Like, the whole time, every time her mom was talking, I was just like, good God, I experienced all that. And it wasn't good, by the way.
I have a note when it's revealed that Annie has hidden her bulimia for 4 years and her mom finds out. I was like, 4 years? Lauren beats her.
I think I have some note about that. Oh, yeah, I see where I wrote, ooh, 4 years, try 20.
I had thought of you a lot also with her parents.
I have a note somewhere. I was searching for my notes specifically on her because I was usually talking about her mom. I said, when they're talking to her mom at some point, says, oh my gosh, so much idealism, refusing to see. Even in the interview for this documentary, she's struggling to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because she did, I don't know, what exact phrase she said, but it's the same as, after my parents have known and they, they've seen me go to treatment and stuff like that, then they still will call later and awkwardly be like, everything going okay with the eating stuff? It's like, ugh.
Yeah. Oh my God. While we're talking about Annie, there's a moment where her mom complains about a book that her therapist gave her about narcissistic parents.
Yes,
She's like, I can't believe this is an appropriate book in this situation. Yeah. And I'm just like, oh my fucking God, you are the problem.
Exactly. She calls the book, she starts calling it a scathing attack. And I was like,
yep.
Good Christ, lady.
It's just totally making herself the victim.
Uh-huh. Doing exactly what that book is about.
Yeah. It's really hard. I mean...
Yeah, her family was tough to watch.
I feel like all of the family scenes were kind of hard to watch. That's one thing that makes this documentary different, I think, is that it centers on the family's perspective, or at least it's 50-50.
I thought it was interesting how the families reacted and, were willing at this point to take some responsibility and things like that. And I would say I rate them from worst to best as Annie's, Suni's, Marya's, and Anna Weston. That's my rating of how the families, from worst to best, of how the families deal with it.
Yeah. We'll talk about the Marya of it all. That was my first time, seeing her parents on video, because obviously I've read Wasted a bunch of times, and Marya has a good relationship with her parents now. She recently wrote a long piece about her mother, for instance. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was really surreal.
I felt that way too, because I've read it as well.
And you can tell, obviously... they're extremely intelligent. Mm-hmm. They're saying all the right things, but I can also see, her mom talks about her expectations of children.
Yeah.
They had to be adults.
With her parents, what I felt like is because I have read her book a few times, the parents don't come off so well in the book.
Right.
And so seeing them here felt like, they're still not perfect, but it comes off as people who went through that experience, who've probably, also read everything that she's written and are like, I'm willing to learn from that and try and do better.
Yeah.
They didn't sound totally, ignorant to their part or anything. So I was like, it sounds like parents going through growth. So that's why I was like, hers aren't bad.
Yeah. And I think she was 26 when this came out, meaning Wasted had only been published for a couple of years. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, her parents probably read it. And so you'd hope by then they would have a better idea of what went wrong.
Right.
I didn't think they were horrible. They just seemed like a lot of other parents I know.
Yeah. They felt like they're willing to listen, which, as we just talked about, Annie's were not.
Yeah, they also make a huge deal about, like, getting to a low weight before going to treatment.
Did you watch any? I don't know, because I just used the link on your phone to look up the name of it, and then I just independently searched a YouTube video on my computer, so I'm not sure if I was looking at the same one. But there was a year later, like, television interview revisiting them.
I didn't see that.
I didn't watch all of it because I was running out of time. But there was one quote that I took from that, because they have Annie and Marya on the show. And they ask them, you know, like, where they are now as compared to the documentary and everything like that. And they do have a discussion about the weight, and saying, you know, like, Annie saying, like, I never got down to a super low weight. So people are always saying, like, you don't look like it. And she had a quote in there that I wrote down, because she said, if you're looking for 50-pound people, you're going to miss everyone.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah.
Seriously.
But both of them made sure to stress, like, this is the exception. Like, it is not the norm that people are going to be super, super skinny, and that means they need help.
Again, that's very advanced for the time, I feel like.
Yeah, because I think it was only a year later, so it still was early 2000s. Yeah.
Another way this documentary is kind of ahead of its time is that it portrays a person of color with an eating disorder, which, you know, most of the time it's like white, blonde women. Even in the introduction, Lauren says mostly young women.
That's the first thing that I noticed, was like, she keeps saying, like, this is happening to girls all over, and girls this and girls that. And like, yeah, I clocked that right away.
But yeah, Suni is the 16-year-old with bulimia. Are they Indian?
I didn't think they said it ever.
But yeah, one thing she said that I really related to was, I'm not doing this on purpose. Sometimes it happens. Oh, so her dad is in a wheelchair.
Yeah, I don't remember what his condition is, but it's some, like, degenerative thing, I believe.
Right, and she was constantly, like, downplaying her trauma because of her dad. Like, she was like, he's suffering so much. What are my problems worth, you know?
Yeah, I'm not sure if she's the one that said this or not, because I didn't write who it's attributed to, but it would make sense even with her dad having the problems that someone said right away, my mom needs me to be okay, so I'm okay.
Yes. Every time she was on screen, my heart was just broken. First of all, because, like, she's just so young. And I know we had eating disorders at that age, but at the time, I don't know, I didn't consider myself a kid. I considered myself a full adult at 16.
Oh, yeah. And also, it really affected me when they talked about her experience, because, you know, we've talked about mine, where I was getting bounced around by insurance, and I was sent back to treatment saying everyone's going to pay for it. And within 3 hours, they said no, and I had to stay in a random hotel until I could get a train back. And it's like, that was horribly miserable and lonely. But when they say that she went to that treatment center to find out that it closed down a week or so before, did you catch that?
Wait, which one was that?
It was SUNY. It was like the very first time her parents said, like, oh, you know, like, we finally sent her to a treatment center. And what they didn't know is she got there and found out that it, like, closed down a week ago.
Yes. Okay. That was in Seattle. Yes. Because they showed a image of the Swedish clinic in Ballard. Okay. I think that's where they were talking about. That actually kind of happened to me, too. When I went to treatment to detox in Seattle, I was, you know, getting sober from alcohol, but I was also bulimic. And it took them forever to find a ward for me because not a lot of places would take me for addiction if I had an eating disorder. But the place I ended up going to was this, like, wing of a hospital. And it closed down, like, 2 weeks after I left.
Oof.
After, like, 60 years or something like that. So, yeah, I can't imagine that devastation, because it's hard enough to accept that you need help, to apply for treatment centers, to jump through all the hoops, to come up with the money to physically, like, get there.
Especially at that age, I'm sure you do not want to go, but, you know, obviously you've accepted it because you're on your way, and then hear that.
Yeah, she was the one who kept relapsing when she got out. She like overdosed one night on her dad's medication, and then she went to the hospital, and then when she got out, she overdosed again. I just could relate to it so much, and you can tell like how guilty she feels about it. Her mom, I really came to like.
Same. Yeah, I wasn't too impressed, I know, with her mom in the beginning either, but she sounded like she was doing everything she felt she could. Like, selflessly, not, not to be like, tell me that I didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah. She goes to a support group for parents, even.
I had a thought on that, too. Because they showed the support group, and they show another parent talking right away, and the other parent is just going on, just the standard stuff. She's talking about, like, oh, like, I used to be able to see my daughter like this, and now she's just all bones, and...
Yep.
And it felt like, and I just made me wonder, like, in a parent support group or something like that, sure, you can focus on stuff like that if you want, because, it's detrimental, I would say, to the people going through it to hear that. But I was like, maybe, like the family needs to talk about this stuff, and that's a good place for it. But on the other side, I felt like, yeah, but then is that just letting them live in that fantasy that, like, it's just a problem where she hates food?
Yeah.
So I didn't know what I thought, yeah.
I mean, I think by the time the movie ends, I think she gets it. There's a scene where she's saying that it's obvious she relapsed because of her weight. In that moment, I was like, okay, you kind of get it, but also you kind of don't get it if you think it's just about weight.
Well, even I think she says after like a few treatment stays, saying like, oh, she came home and I know the very next day she made herself throw up, and it just felt like it was all for nothing. And I was like, hey, have you heard of slips? Laps? Versus relapse?
Yeah.
It felt to me like she was just saying, like, she threw up the next day, so there we go, we're back to square one.
Oh my god, this is random, but there's a book called Slip that I really want to read for the podcast, and just in general. It's about life in the middle of an eating disorder.
Oh.
Not recovery.
That sounds interesting.
But yeah, I think what struck me most about this was just how you can have all the support and still, relapse, and how you can have all the knowledge and still be mystified as to like what's going on with yourself. What was I going to say about Suni's mom? There's another thing. Oh my god. So when they visit her, so eventually her mom is able to lower the cost of treatment from like $80,000 to $60,000.
$63,000. I have that for 2 months.
Yeah. And, Suni's worried she's going to waste her parents' money. But she eventually goes, and then her whole family, so her mom, her dad, and her little sister visit her in, I think, Arizona is where she goes. And they interview her little sister, who's like 9.
Oh, God, yeah.
And she actually says one of the most, like...
Sorry.
God.
Taco!
That's hilarious.
Taco, come here. No one is out there. Hey! Hey, Punk! The guy above me, I know, is selling his place, and he's been doing work on it, so I bet he heard, like, construction people walk by and flipped out.
On the Lord's Day?
Yeah, right. Sorry, what were you saying?
I think the little sister kind of summed it all up with her quote, which was, I think she can get better if she wants to. It's just a matter of whether she wants to or not.
Yes.
And I don't know, on one hand, it's not just a matter of willpower, but also you really do have to want to recover, or like at least want to change something.
Yeah, like I think that, thinking of it that way helps the people who don't understand. And I feel like they mentioned something like this at one point, that it's like, you go to treatment or something like that, and it's just kind of like, well, then why aren't you better?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it actually is when they're talking to Suni's mom at some point that she's kind of admitting how she didn't understand that at first, and said, like, you think, like, if somebody's having a problem and they suggest surgery, then they can have the surgery and they'll just gradually start to recover and things should be better. And she's just kind of realizing, like, that's not how it works.
Yeah. Someone in the film said, you expect to go to treatment and come out just the same, but without an eating disorder. Oh, I think it was Annie. She was saying, like, my eating disorder actually masks a lot of things that, like, it masks a person that people might not like.
Yeah.
They just have an idea of who I am because I have an eating disorder and it's covering up a lot of stuff. So when you take that away, it's incredibly vulnerable.
Yeah. She also says something I know in that after show that I watched. Like at that point, she says she's doing a lot better. And whoever's interviewing asks, like, so how are you feeling in general then? Or do you feel better? And she's like, well, actually, I feel better some days, and I feel so much worse than I ever thought of other days. She's just like, it's higher highs, it's higher lows. It's because I've got feelings.
Yeah.
So like she ends up saying, yeah, like it's not a bad thing, even though there's been some days I feel terrible because I can feel more.
Well, and that shows that she has grown too, because I know at the beginning of the documentary, she says the reason she developed her eating disorder was because her life motto was like, don't be difficult, swallow your needs, get along with others at any cost.
Mm-hmm.
Just basically like numbing yourself to your own feelings.
Yeah, I felt like that documentary did not leave me full of confidence for Annie or Suni's future.
Well, statistically, you're right. That's the shitty thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's where our tagline came in. The average time it takes to recover from an eating disorder is 7 years. 7 fucking years. I don't think I've ever been in quote-unquote recovery for even 1 full year.
No. Also, funny that 7 comes up, because I remember a therapist telling me at some point that the average amount of times that someone attends a treatment center is 7.
I've heard that too, actually.
Yeah, like she was saying that because I think she was trying to convince me that I needed to go for like the 3rd time. And I was like, it didn't work before. Why? And she's like, so just so you know, there's people that do a lot more.
But if you think about it, that's pretty crazy. Like, let's say you came down with like an illness, like a liver disease or something, and they were like, it'll take you 6 years to recover. And in the meantime, you cannot have a single sip of alcohol, or you might just go back to the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I think Suni's mom says if she had been like a drug addict,
oh yeah,
it would have been easier. Insurance would have paid. But because she has an eating disorder, I think Anna's story deals with this too. They don't consider eating disorder treatment medically necessary, or like they're happy to pay if it's effective, but there's no treatment that's been proven effective.
Yeah, that was something. God. Yeah, they were talking about Anna Weston at that point, and she did die by suicide, which is about half of eating disorders. That's that's often why. And I just was curious then. And, I'm getting answers from AI, so who knows how accurate it is. But I tried to find out how much money is spent on suicide prevention versus how much is spent on eating disorder prevention.
Oh, wow. Because
I thought, like, if that's how people with eating disorders are dying, then why don't you see this as important as suicide prevention? There was actually, it seemed like pretty official statistics, about $105 million spent on suicide prevention. The answer for eating disorders was all like, that's really hard to find an accurate number, but about 3 million.
That doesn't surprise me.
No, me neither.
But it's also crazy to hear, like, those are crazy different numbers.
Mm-hmm. Even think of it, if like $3 million is spent a year.
That's insane.
That pays for what, like 10 people's treatment stays in the entire country?
That doesn't even pay for like an ad campaign across the country.
Right.
I think this movie is an accurate reflection of that, because at the end they're like, well, yeah, the goal should be to prevent eating disorders, but they don't really give any instructions other than that, which is realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I guess I was expecting them to like wrap it up more in a little bow, and I was glad that they didn't, but also it did leave me feeling kind of hopeless.
Yeah, actually, and again, I didn't finish it. I saw like half an interview afterwards. If you needed to feel not so despondent, it felt a little better because you saw Annie saying she's doing better. And they had Marya on there too. And it was interesting because I noticed she did not say this in the documentary, and she did not say in her book. She always, just kind of left it up in the air then, like, I don't know, I'll probably will deal with this for the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. And when they were asking in that interview, then she was like, if I'm truthful, I used to think, I'd use like recovering all the time. She's like, I gotta say recovered, because nothing that I do is spurred by the eating disorder thoughts, the eating disorder behaviors or anything. So she's just kind of like, if that's not ruling my life, then I think I gotta say I'm recovered.
That's so interesting, because she's been on extreme ends of the scale, no pun intended. It's just like she's been extremely severely anorexic, and now she's also in that rare class of people who say they're recovered and really honestly genuinely don't think about it.
Yeah, because I made that note in the documentary already, because she was saying still in the documentary, the same kind of thing she says at the end of her book, that's just like, this will be something that I have for the rest of my life, even if I've learned to live with it. And I know, how she feels now. So I was saying, like, seeing her today is kind of like the best hope that you could get if you've read.
Yeah, she's killing it.
Uh-huh.
Her mom in the documentary, I think it's one of her last quotes. She says that she does kind of low-key expect there to be another crisis after treatment. And in fact, the documentary showed Marya's stay in Low House, which she talks a lot about in the book. But what the documentary didn't show is that she relapsed even worse when she got out of there. And that's when she reached the weight that they fully just say in this documentary. The number. I was like, all right, they really did say that number.
Well, it is still 2003.
Exactly. I couldn't be too mad about it.
That's how we got to shock people.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to do my other little bit of research I wanted to. I was curious, based on my first couple main times in treatment were 2015, 2016. So I wondered when the Anna Weston Act was actually passed.
What is that? I haven't heard of that.
So, she's from the state of Minnesota. So it's something in Minnesota where it's like insurance is not allowed to deny eating disorder treatment. I don't know, all the specifics, but basically in a lot of cases that they normally do.
Oh, yeah. They talked about how they are making it so that any mental health claim denial gets re-examined.
Yeah, because I wondered when all that stuff passed, just because that was when I first heard about it, was in treatment in Missouri in 2015. And it seems like there was a ton of people from Minnesota. And that's what someone said. They were like, well, yeah, it's because of the Anna Weston Act. So, we're some of the lucky ones that actually are able to get it. So you're going to see a lot of Minnesota people.
Wow. Oh, that made me so emotional. Her parents, we haven't really talked about Anna so far except for her diary entries, which are very relatable. But her parents really tried everything. And then when she died, they sued. Did they sue the place that turned her away? They sued the insurance company.
I think, yeah.
She was literally dying and they were like, it's not medically necessary.
Yeah.
And she literally felt so hopeless that she killed herself. And I know so many people that have gone through that. It's not even a surprise at this point. It's almost a joke. I've been turned away from treatment too. When I went to the ER one time and they were literally like, your labs are all normal. I told them I was suicidal and they were just like,
well, maybe try not to do that. Bye.
Yeah. Ugh. And so they literally used the settlement money they got from the insurance company to start a treatment center. I think it was the first of its type in Minnesota.
Yeah.
That just made me want to cry.
I know.
I don't know. I don't often feel as much sympathy for the parents, but this documentary did a good job of humanizing them.
Well, even it struck me when her mom said, and yes, sometimes, because of the religious angle, when people are like, I'm begging God and God will see for me, then I kind of tune it out. But it really did affect me when, her mom obviously must be religious, because she just said I was angry with God at some point and said, about starting the treatment center and everything like that. I would have done this anyway. You didn't have to take my daughter away.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that was just a really strong statement here.
She would have made the treatment center regardless.
That she was, if I knew of this need and had the ability, I would have had the passion. You didn't have to spark it by killing my daughter.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to start unpacking that.
No, that's what I said. That was one that really had an effect when she said that.
Something her dad says that affected me was, he said at one point, it clicked for him that, she can't decide not to do it anymore. And it sounds duh, but people seem to think you can just start eating or just stop throwing up or whatever.
Yeah. I think that made me sad too, because it sounded like, wow, well, her dad got it at some point. I don't believe that mine ever has.
Well, yeah, and obviously it shouldn't take someone's death to help people understand. It's just really sad. When they interviewed her best friend,
oh my gosh,
that was really sad because she was like, she didn't even look like herself anymore. It was like a different person.
Yeah.
And like, I've never gotten, down to life-threatening weights, but I have felt like a completely different person when I'm like deep in my eating disorder. And I don't know, I feel like it does keep me from being my genuine self.
Also, you just reminded me something like probably like 3 months or so after coming out of treatment for the first time. And, especially then, it's like the first connection I've had like this. So I'm really like keeping up with people and everything. And I remember a moment where, one girl was she just dropped off the grid because, she also had a lot of addiction problems. And that's the last I knew is she went back to drinking and doing heroin all the time and, not wanting anybody's help. So I knew that's where she's at. One of my good friends there was, sinking severely into depression, very suicidal. And then, the third was like my best friend there, and she'd come to visit me. And it's like she'd lost weight since I'd seen her. It's like that was obvious, but I think it was more like the change in like her face and, her coloring. And like she just clearly like looked like she was dying. And I remember it was pretty much after she left, I thought of those 3 friends, and I was just like, well, I'm going to lose one of them this year.
Did you?
I think maybe the year after. Luckily, the other 2 are doing really well.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, that's the unfortunate reality is not all of us will make it out alive. I mean, no one makes it out of life alive, obviously, but...
No one makes it out of life alive.
Hot take.
Yeah. Guess what? Pickles and Vodka breaks the news. We all die.
We all die. Some of us will die of eating disorders. Otherwise, some of us not. I don't know. Statistically, some of us will have this for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just healthier to accept that and like focus on harm reduction and like improving your quality of life. Because that's kind of where I'm at right now. I would like to not have to do this forever, but I have to consider that as a potential reality.
Yeah, it kind of seems like as long as I'm willing to keep living in this world, then yes, harm reduction would be the best. Would make it a little easier to do so.
Especially if you've had an eating disorder for over a decade, it is part of you. I don't know. One of the last things I want to talk about is the message of the documentary, which is the eating disorder impacts the family. They interview a specialist at some point. She says, like, what's the eating disorder trying to express in the family? Because it's never just about food.
Right.
And then someone else is like, basically, if you don't examine the family dynamic, there's no chance of getting better. I think that might have been Marya's mom. But I wrote down that question. Do we believe that until you examine the family dynamic, there's no chance in getting better? Because I thought about you and your family and how you don't talk to them about this stuff. And you've also kind of, quote unquote, recovered without involving them before.
Yeah, but that's interesting because I could counter that with saying, like, if that's the truth, then maybe that's why I never felt able to totally leave it behind. Like, there's moments of doing better, but I've never felt, I've never felt 100% in, even on wanting to. So.
I mean, same. I don't know. It's like, I never expect the family dynamic to completely heal, but
yeah,
I don't necessarily think that'll keep me from living a healthier life.
Yeah, I don't think that has to be the end all be all. I mean, I feel that way about a lot of things. That it's like there's no one thing that must happen no matter what, just because it does in most cases.
Yeah, Anne's mom at the end, she's the one that was like mad about the narcissist book. At the end, she actually did seem to get it a little, though. She was saying how she needs to not focus on the food and focus on her relationship with her daughter.
I wonder if I finished up that interview a year later, because she was one of the people that was there for it, like if I'd hear more about how her family has dealt with it.
We'll post links to both of these YouTube videos in the show notes.
Yeah, I guess I got a couple things that I can wrap up with. Like, one of them relates a lot to what you were just talking about, but this totally unrelated thing, just as both people who've read Wasted several times.
Oh, I can't wait.
Did you clock? They interviewed someone. So, in the book, Marya talks about going to treatment at a something Methodist hospital. And they interviewed a doctor from there, and they gave his name. In the book, she refers to the head of the program as Dr. J, just by an initial. Okay. And he also comes off really, really bad in the book. And that's what this guy's last name started with. So I was like, is he that guy?
Oh, shit.
Because he does not come off very, very understanding. Like, he kind of comes off as like, why are you the director of an eating disorder program? You don't seem to give a shit about them. And I thought it would be interesting if it was the same person and they also are like, yes, as an authority, speak in our documentary. And I'm like, okay.
Well, yeah, this whole movie revolves around the assumption that treatment is necessary at some point. That, like, the eating disorder treatment system is effective, but we know it's not.
Right.
So, like, all those interviews you got to take with a grain of salt,
Yeah. I don't feel like the documentary as a whole gives that message. I feel, like the treatment providers that they interview are saying this, but it sounded to me like a lot of the family seems like sometimes they're questioning, like, she's gone, several times. Why isn't it working? Like, maybe that's not the answer. So I feel like they did kind of like introduce a little thought like, maybe this isn't the only way.
Yeah.
So the last thing I was going to say, mostly from our conversation talking about working on the family dynamics, is that's one of the first things that I wrote down when they started talking to Marya, which is she said something like, I realized that I'm always going to have to take care of myself, so I didn't.
Whoa, I completely missed that.
And I was like, wow, I don't think I realized till this moment that my whole thing could boil down to that. It might.
Wait, say that one more time.
I realized I was always going to have to take care of myself, so I didn't.
Ooh!
Yeah!
It's almost like a rebellion not taking care of yourself.
Mm-hmm. Or especially, she's saying she's realizing this when she developed her eating disorder, which is like 8 or 9. So, if you are realizing that then, like, I'm always going to have to take care of myself, so I'm not going to, like, of course you're going to rebel at that age against that thought, because you're like, why do I have to take care of myself? I am 9 years old. Like,
yes.
It's wrong. So yeah, that is a logical response, I feel like, to rebel.
Oh yeah, she literally says, I'm tired of being the okay one.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's kind of the inverse of what I always say, which is like, no one gives as much of a shit about you as you. That's the opposite. It's like, okay, no one gives as much of a shit about me as me, so I'm not going to give a shit about myself.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
On that note,
I know.
I think people should watch this. I think it might be a good thing to show family members if they don't understand. It is kind of dated.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got to get past the 20 plus years ago of it all. But like I said up top, it's not as bad as I expected of a 2003 documentary.
Yeah.
Not at all.
And it's free on YouTube. So let us know what you think.
Mm-hmm.
We also have a pickle poll out we're going to answer next week. So get your responses in by Friday the 1st at midnight.
Okay.
We will keep hanging in there, I guess.
Yeah.
Bye!
Bye!
If you like what you heard, tell a friend about the podcast. You can send them to picklesandvodka.substack.com, where they can listen to our entire catalog and find our newest merch. We love hearing from our listeners, so leave us a voice message at speakpipe.com/picklesandvodka. My personal Instagram is at xtinajumper, and Lauren's is at Lauren3_AFH. We'll see you next week.